Japanese had landed in Papua and established themselves at the eastern end of the one track which leads across the island to Port Moresby.
The enemy has brought us into the war right on our own shore.
Early 1942 was Japan's most belligerent moment. They felt they could take every nation in Asia at will. They felt that Australia was simply going to be a pushover.
One morning, these blokes came around and they said they wanted to make a battalion up to guard the tropics. They said, you can take your tennis rackets and cameras and all sorts of things.
Oh, yeah.
It's frightening, really, but you don't feel it at the time. You want to live. And you want them to die.
こんな若い兵隊をなんで殺さなきゃならんだ。だけども殺さなきゃ自分が殺されるから。
We had here the picture of an Australian army doing their damnedest to win this war, but they were being stabbed in the back by high command who failed to understand the terrain and failed to supply the soldiers at the front line. We have to remember that Australia then was the only free nation in Asia. The Japanese had to be stopped somewhere. For the first time in the mountains of the Owen Stanleys, they saw resistance.
The men of the militia unit Smokey joined were disparagingly referred to as chocolate soldiers.
The term choco was coined by the AIF, who reckoned that as we were just militia, we weren't much good, and if things got hot, we'd melt. And they called us chocos.
Soldiers overseas, the defence of Australia fell to the militia. While still in training at Bacchus Marsh in Victoria, Smokey's unit sent the militia to defend Port Moresby. In Sydney, the 39th were joined on the troop ship Aquitania by another militia battalion, the poorly trained and bitterly reluctant 53rd, many of whom were press-ganged off the streets.
海軍が誤った情報を、陸軍に伝えたと、道があるというそういう誤った情報。陸軍の中でもそのわずかな距離なんだから難しくないだろうというその安直な。
Believed that a road should be built from Port Moresby to Kokoda, and this would enable supply to get through more easily. They haven't built a road yet. They never will. You can't.
Up in Port Moresby, Chester Wilmot recorded a radio report for the ABC.
The Japanese have developed the camouflage of their like a German field grey uniform in the Libyan desert.
The 39th retreated along the Kokoda track, up into the dense jungle of Isirava, high in the mountains above Kokoda. Having endured the ferocity of the Japanese army at Kokoda, they prepared for the Battle of Isirava, later known as the Big Fight.
And it was just wait and looking and waiting and looking and sitting there of a night. Is there anyone out there, you know? I wouldn't say frightening, but we knew we were going to have a battle, and whether we'd survive or not, we didn't really know. And I think that was the feeling.